Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Mr. Brother Bayan here to bring you a quick lesson. Prior to get started, I want to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who taught me this truth. Peace and salutations to the hopefully elect, you Akim, you Akwat, to you brothers and sisters in the Hebrew that believe. All right. And this is going to be a lesson titled around the basis of this truth not being for the weak-minded. All right. This truth not being for the weak-minded. All right. And obviously, coming into this truth, coming into the knowing, of the scriptures, of everything you need to know, pretty much that, all the blacks, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, that you are the true, Israelites of the Bible, and, and how you're supposed to uphold yourself, and how we're supposed to operate, and, ultimately operating while being in captivity, keeping your spirits high, and, so on and so forth, anything else that, I probably can't think of at the moment that, that may fall in that boat. All right. But it's a lot of adversity going on. All right. Let me grab that word real quick. Basic word, but let's just see what the definition say about it. Adversity. It says adversity is regular Google definition. Difficulties, misfortune. All right, what does adversity mean in simple words? A very difficult or unfavorable situation. All right, pretty much, we're in a very difficult, situation, in this captivity, trying to uphold the law, statutes, commandments to the best of our ability, doing the work of the Lord to the best of our ability, being brotherly to the best of our ability, all of these matters. All right, still while balancing, your everyday life by yourself, some brothers may have their families that they have to tend to, and many other things they may have to tend to, but, as the brothers, down here in New Orleans, we preach, and pretty damn sure that every brother, that's a part of GMS preaches that, you're supposed to do and work everything around the truth. The truth is supposed to be that core, that foundation that you work everything around, but it's easier said than done. All right, you're going to go through some trials. All right, but enough talking. Let's hop in some precepts. Salakim. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 2, verse 4. It says, whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state. Right, for gold is tried in fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. All right, we are in a very, very low state right now. All right, last hired, first fired. Just the times that we're in, prices is going up. People are more wicked than they ever been. These YNs, these niggas, these dumbass Eves, everything. This damn devil, implementing all the things that he's doing. All of these things is crazy, and we're at the bottom of the food chain here, But it says, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. All right, the Lord has done this for a reason. All right, again, because it's to weed out the weak. All right, they got the saying, survival of the fittest. All right, and the fittest, in reality, is the men that's doing the work. All right, that's the most fit men. All right, that's who the Lord is looking for. He's looking for those men to be of that judging body, to be heirs to the throne. Not no YN. Not none of these rappers, none of these actors. That's in cahoots with Esau Edom in this world. And looking for this word to continue. No, the Lord is looking for the men that's detached, from this thing, and is doing His work. All right. But again, it says, verse Sirach 2 and 5, for gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. That adversity is part of the game, man. And it's many things that's gonna go wrong. You just gotta accept the fact. It's a lot of things that's gonna go wrong, but at the end of the day, having that understanding, you're supposed to chalk it up and know that it's not truly a loss. All right. That's the mindset to be in. All right, that's the mindset that to correct those evil thoughts, those woe is me thoughts. You know that the Lord made it happen, so it happened. I got to deal with it, and I got to keep pushing. I got to keep the first things first, and I got to keep on moving. All right, and we still in the flesh, man. We still have to deal with everything that comes with the flesh. So you may spirits may be down. Sometimes you may be fighting off demons. Jake, everybody going through something. All right, but the most important part is to keep on going. Keep on fighting. All right, and that's the point of having brothers, and having examples and samples of men who's going through similar things as just to be motivated to keep on pushing. All right, you can't fall quickly inside of this thing just because of your surroundings. All right, you got to keep fighting. All right, but this is in the same chapter, Sirach 2:12. It says, "Woe be to fearful hearts and faint hands, and a sinner that goeth two ways." All right, woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore he should not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience, what will ye do when the Lord should visit you? All right, and let's start back up from the beginning on verse 12. It says, "Woe be to the fearful heart and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways." All right, you can't go two ways in this thing, man. It's only one way. All right, there's only one way, and it's the right way. It's dealing with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. It's doing His works. All right, so and you can't have faint hands. You can't be faint-hearted in this thing. You put your hands on the plow. You got to work. All right, you don't work, you don't eat. You don't work, you don't eat. And it's way more important. For this work to be done. All right, because the Lord lets you know that if you do this work, He gonna feed you. In the physical matter. All right, as long as you keep this first, the Lord got you. All right, so it'll be stupid in so many ways, just by what you're going through, for you to take your hands off the plow, to fall back in the world and be a bug out, to quit this thing, just because your circumstances. All right, you're not the only one. All right, you can't have that woe is me spirit, that woe is me demon on you. You can't move like that. If you keep that on you, that's going to be to your demise. It's going to be to your fall. That demon is going to get heavy and just knock you off your tracks at the end of the day if you don't do something about it. All right, but this is what it says in the GNT, Sirach 2:12. It says, but it's like, I got a little bit of meat on here. Back on Sirach 2:13, it says, "Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, therefore should he not be defended." All right, that's plain and simple. All right, if you faint-hearted and which equals to you not believing from the beginning, the Lord is not going to defend you. All right, you're gonna be knocked off by the Lord. To tell you the truth, with everything that these curveballs and fastballs that he throwing at you in situations, you're gonna get hit by all of those, with no defense. All right, at least the believers, we have some type of defense, to knock these situations out the park, to keep on fighting. All right, so you definitely don't want to be faint-hearted, which equals again to you not believing. You don't want to fall in that position at all. All right, but verse 14 says, "Woe unto you that have lost patience, what will ye do when the Lord should visit you?" They got the occasional people that's talking of, in other words, just saying that this was been written, how long there's going to be, oh man, this has been supposed to happen, or this not going to happen in our lifetime, or all those people with those dumbass thoughts, man. All right, don't lose patience in this thing. All right, don't lose patience, because it says, "And what will ye do when the Lord shall visit you?" All right, coming knocking on that door, when you least expect it, coming as a thief as a night, as it says in the scriptures, But again, in the GNT, it says, Sirach 2:12, "But those who lose their nerve are doomed. All those sinners who try to have it both ways. Doom is sure to come for those who lose their courage. They have no faith and so they will not have no protection. Doom is sure to come for those who lose their hope. What will they do when the Lord comes to judge them? All right? You know, you can't run, you can't hide. You know, if you fall in any of those situations of unbelieving and being faint-hearted or faint-handed, you know, you gotta work. You gotta work, man. All right? But this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 10. It says, if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. All right? If thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. All right? I mean, you, all that preparing that you was doing, you know, you really don't amount to shit, you know, to tell you the truth. You know, it's for nothing. You imagine putting all that time in, you know, studying and doing all these things, and all of a sudden when it's game time, you fold like a folding shit. You know, it don't add up. You know, and by it not adding up, it lets you know that you was really never right from the beginning, man. You know, if you just completely just fall away, you know. And it's crazy because it's many men that's going to happen to. All right, you know, brothers always tell you, you know, just because you got GMS in your name, you know, it doesn't mean that you're going to make it. All right, just my short time in this truth, I done seen, you know, multiple men fall, you know, and back in the world, you know, and probably going to see some more. You never know. You know, all I can say is that I pray that I don't fall. You know, I pray that my brothers and the men that are working in 144% truth, that they don't fall either. You know, God forbid. Yahweh forbid. Yahweh Bashim Yahshua forbid, man. All right. In the NLT of Proverbs 24:10, it says, if you fail under pressure, your strength is too small. All right. What the saying is, man, pressure make diamonds and pressure bust pipes. All right, you don't want to get your pipe buzzed by that pressure. You want to be, you know, what it said in that's Sirach 2:5, for gold is tried in the fire and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. All right, that's that pressure. That's that pressure in you know what's going on in our daily lives. All right. And it's going to continue to happen. And it's only going to get worse until the Lord comes back. All right? But again, the Lord left us this comfort, you know, of the scriptures. You know, he left us with the spirit to believe, you know, all of these things that's going on, you know. So we won't, you know, break under pressure, you know. And it's just plain and simple, man. All right? But I'm going to end it off with this one right here. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 16. Oh, look, I'm Slagia. I wasn't even paying attention to both in the same chapter. I didn't even know I did that, but Slagia. It says, Proverbs 24:16, it says, for a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. All right, for a just man shall fall 7 times and riseth up again. All right, that 7 goes into completion, you know. You're going to fall however many times you're going to fall, but it's going to be a complete number that you're going to fall. All right. But the main point is and rise it up again. All right. And this spiritual war that we're fighting right now, you know, you're going to lose some battles. You know, you're going to lose some battles. You're going to win some battles. All right. And that's just part of the war. That's part of the battle, you know. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is winning the war. All right. Winning the completely overall, you know, war, like I just said. All right. For a just man falleth 7 times and rise it up again. You got to get up again. All right. You know, you're gonna be knocked down a lot, man. You know, and Jay gonna feel it. You're gonna feel it, man. And it's sometimes gonna hit you like a freight train. All right. But you know, as long as you're doing, you know, the work of the Lord wholeheartedly, you know, and you're doing everything to please the Lord to the best of your ability, you know, with the simple things that he asks for, doing the work to the best of your ability, offending less, all right, and being brotherly, all right, and believing, you know, that's all you got to do, All right, and all of these other things is just gonna be, it's gonna be like a blink of an eye. This pain is not gonna be forever, but at the moment, we just got to go through it. Okay. But it says again, Proverbs 24:16, for a just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked shall fall into mischief. All right. The wicked, they're not gonna get up. All right. And that goes for 2/3 of our people, and just these devils and these fucking heathen, by the alone, either or, in that time of adversity, they're not gonna be able to get up because they haven't been training their spirit, to handle these times. All right. What we're doing is we're spiritually working out. We're spiritually fighting right now. We spiritually been preparing for the big fight, which is coming into the times of JT, So, it's going to be many more battles, man. Many more battles. And again, you going to lose some, all right? You're going to lose a couple of them, all right? But the main thing is to keep on fighting and win the ones that you can win, all right? And just keep on pushing, But that was pretty much it. I pray that this lesson was edifying. Before getting out of here, I want to give infinite honors and prayers to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Kagudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who taught me the truth. Peace and salutations to the whole faith elect, Yuakim, Yuakwa, those brothers and sisters in the Hebrew that believe. All right? And keep pushing, and shalom.